Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go. And we have this big article from the Telegraph saying that Ukraine is preparing the long-range missiles capable to reach even Moscow. Well, they put different missile here in the picture, looks like Neptune by the way, but in the article itself they say about Trembita, which is not that big after all. But at the same time it's very cheap, it costs roughly $10,000. Well, I think after all it would cost more, and the development of this missile goes since 2023. The missile is equipped with 40-pound warhead, so small one. The Trembita missile looks like that, so you may call it a cruise missile. And the range of it, well, potentially it may reach Moscow. But you know, even the Shahed drones, they have larger warheads. As an alternative to ATACMS missiles, Ukraine develops its own ballistic missile. It's called Grim, so Thunder 2. And the range of it is longer than for ATACMS, so potentially it may also reach Moscow. The real characteristics are now being classified, but it's the comparator for the Russian Iskander system. But instead, the Ukrainian system is capable to launch 2 of the missiles at once. But again, we have the question whether Ukraine is capable to produce those massively or not. At this stage, I don't think so. From what I know, there was the single unit produced well before in cooperation with Saudi Arabia. So it was the plan for Ukrainian military expert. About the current capabilities of Ukraine, well, we'll see. About ballistic missiles, so far the most adequate thing is ATACMS missile for Ukraine, and we understand that Ukraine uses this missile elsewhere, especially in the Russian territory, in Kursk. We spoke about how yesterday Ukraine demolished Ivanovska, so it was, yes, the hammer strike, but ATACMS missiles were used for that. And now Ukraine tries to develop its own long-range weaponry because we are not sure whether United States would continue their support of Ukraine in several days. But to keep this Kursk territory, Ukraine absolutely needs to hit the Russian logistics hub centers, which is achieved with the help of ATACMS, HIMARS, sometimes Storm Shadow. But again guys, it's good that Ukraine is looking for the possible alternatives. It is the main thing to do, but the most of the long-range weaponry for Ukraine will be ready in 1 year or something, so still Ukraine needs ATACMS and Storm Shadow. There's the news that the next Ramstein meeting will be held on 9th of January, so kind of soon, and maybe Ukraine will obtain more of the military support. This photo is damn old with the ex-Ukrainian defense minister Reznikov. By the way, where is he? He was involved in some of the corruption schemes, and according to some information, he spends most of the time outside Ukraine. Right guys, now let's go to the front lines analytics, and to check everything out we need to know the information about Russian and Ukrainian losses. I follow Andrew Perpetua Analytic, who analyzes the images from the front lines, from the drone cameras, and he put absolutely everything together. So there are the losses for the last day, I guess. This is for a single day, the 1st of January. Absolutely huge losses for the Russian army, and they use KAMAZ trucks as the infantry fighting vehicles. Yeah, in many of the cases they deliver infantry just to the front lines on those vehicles, and that's the big downside for Russia in this war, for them personally. So you can see just a few of the BTRs and BMPs were lost, and since 1 month or something, Russia started to use many of the cars, many more, and motorcycles. Motorcycles are everywhere. Lov, it means Buhanka, a legendary van of the Russian army. Here, car, Lada Niva, some of the off-road capability vehicle, pickup trucks, and with everything of that, they advance right to the battlefield. And here you see what Ukraine uses to demolish all of the Russian vehicles. FPV drones. Without FPV drones, it is absolutely no go for Ukraine. So it's the crucial piece of the military component which our brigade use against Russian vehicles. And that's how Russians suffer those absolutely crazy losses. Well, Ukraine also has the losses for the day. You can see many of the equipment damaged or destroyed. I think that the biggest loss for Ukraine is the counter-artillery radar, so it's counter-battery they call. And you see that Russia also uses many of the FPV drones, the same stuff as Ukraine. FPV drone, Vandal drone, so many drones. This war is up to the drones. But the whole positions in trenches in the 3 lines, infantry is used. So without infantry, it's impossible to win even a small battle, because drones, it's just the tool to deliver weapons. because without infantry it's just impossible to win even a small battle. Drones are the great tools against vehicles, but they cannot stop the Russian offensive. And for this reason, obviously, soldiers are needed. Guys, there are many of the videos available in internet. For example, this one is from Battalion K2. The image shows how really our guys operate on the front lines with vehicles, with FPV drones, but I usually share that stuff on my Telegram channel, because here I cannot put this format, sorry. But what can I probably show you is the result of the FPV drone operations on one of the roads which Russia uses for their assaults. You can see many of the tanks, some of them are even T-62 tanks, armored vehicles, infantry vehicles, hangar tanks. All of that stuff is the road of hell for Russians. Yes, they took this territory under control, but just look at those losses. Here's the other video shared today, and there are many of the Russian cars, supply vehicles maybe, and the Russian guy with the USSR symbol just walks. He says that he has 2 holes in his leg. Russians are unable to evacuate him, so he is forced to cover several of the kilometers with his wounded leg. And you can see the Russian tank out there. That's the reality for the Russian army. The war is about mud, blood, and pain. By the way, this Frankenstein that you saw probably on this video is the ex-Russian T-62 tank. Russians just removed the turret, they welded some of the metal plates, and it's good to go as the BMP. And as you can see, it was stopped. My friends, if you want to support the job that I do here on YouTube, you may also join my Patreon. The link for it is available right in the video description below. Thank you. Alright, and finally we have the update from the deep state military map source. They say that again enemy moved, especially in this area. So it was the day before yesterday, and it is yesterday. We have some of the delay because it's the policy of the deep state. They do not give the very current information. So speaking in general, Russia moves almost every day in Pokrov's direction in this hump, and they already reaching this road from what I can see. Yeah, very close to it, so they may advance later on towards Pokrovsk from 2 of the directions. From what I say, they will go from this side, and also from this side. It's their usual tactics, and for Russia it would be crucial to cut the supplies for Ukrainian army across this road. Here you can see just a single settlement, Kotlina, and Russia may go here across the fields. It's not the river, it's the railroad. So I think that they will go here at first. Yesterday I showed you Ukrainian trenches which were built according to the book, so I wonder where they are near Pokrovsk. But in any case, guys, we're gonna see the battle for Pokrovsk very soon, and I'm not very optimistic about it. So in a close by perspective, Russia will cut supplies for Ukrainian Pokrovsk. They will advance from Kurakhova, taking this territory, and they will get Velika Novosilka under control. And later on they will go to this area, and there are not many settlements, so they may advance towards the border with Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. Is it a success for the Russian army from the tactical perspective? Yes, but even for Ukraine in Kursk, at first it was the tactical success, but from the strategic point of view, Russia loses enormous resources for those strikes, and they absolutely cannot allow themselves to continue like that without announcing a new massive mobilization. And even though Russia has the military production, they cannot produce enough tanks and armored vehicles. You can clearly see it. And because Russia also started to struggle with their resources, with their economy, some of the media are looking for the possible variants in this case for Russia and how Putin might think about the future and perspectives of the war. And some say that Putin is preparing his elite for some sort of the ceasefire, which Russia could show to their people as a victory. But honestly, guys, I don't see those signs. I think that between peace and the massive mobilization in Russia, Putin would choose the second variant. He's just comfortable with this war, he likes this движуха, so he will continue. That's my forecast. Despite, by the way, the huge problems in the Russian economy. Alright, about the FPV drones with the fiber optic cables. Firstly, this idea came from Russia. Yes, it happens sometimes that Russians came out with their own solutions. It happens kind of rarely. Usually Russians take the solutions of Ukraine, but here Ukraine already got many of those fiber optic drones, But at the same time, those drones have disadvantages. Well, first of all, you have the extra load of the coil. Secondly, in the sunny weather, daytime, the drones are easily spotted because you can see this fiber optics wire. The third disadvantage is the maneuverability of the drone. Because it has the wire, it is more difficult and you may cut your own wire with propellers. And one more thing, that the drones like that are expensive. Way more expensive compared to the standard FPV drones. Nevertheless, the commander of Magyar Birds, Magyar himself, says that they have already thousands of those fiber optic drones. Despite those disadvantages I've just mentioned, the fiber optic drones have one big advantage. You cannot intercept them using electronic warfare. The signal from the operator goes through the fiber optics cable, so the redundancy and stability of the signal is beyond imagination for our drone operators. However, now Ukraine, with the help of our Western partners, is looking for the solutions to jam those fiber optic drones, first of all for the Russian side. How could it be achieved? Well, there are some of the solutions, but I'm not the huge specialist in electronics. So maybe we should wait for more than this electronic warfare will be in use in Ukrainian army. Hopefully Ukraine will get this solution before Russians. And guys, yesterday I saw such a terrible video of the close fight between Ukrainian soldier and the Russian one, actually from Yakutia, which is occupied by Russia, by the way. I mean, there are lots of the nationalities like Tatars, Chechens, Yakuts, Bashkirs. They all live currently under occupation. Those were people who were conquered by Russians, and now they are forced to fight for the Russian needs. So unfortunately, Ukrainian soldier lost the knife battle with this Yakut, but at the same time there was some sort of the respect between Yakut and the Ukrainian. The Ukrainian soldier asked him to stop because he was already hit many of the times and it was no go for a Ukrainian soldier. So he asked this Yakut to release him to go away peacefully. So this he could done it, but later on he took the grenade and he put it under the vest of the Ukrainian soldier, because he thought that for Ukrainian soldier it was very painful to suffer those many stabs. I don't want to share that video filmed from the Ukrainian soldier GoPro perspective even on my Telegram, because it's really traumatizing and it really uncovers the real face of war, you know. This Yakut will be again sent to the Russian army. He is there just for the cannon fodder. I'm 100% sure that he will not survive this war. That's the destiny of all of those nationals which were occupied. For example, by Russia, Yakutia is occupied, so they use their people in useless wars. And that's the plan for Russia, to use the Ukrainians in their future wars, as they did it before, under the ruling of the Soviet Empire or the Russian Empire. So actually it's a big tragedy which Russia created, not just for Ukrainians, but for the small national minorities who live on the Russian territory. Russians do not care what might happen to those nationals with their language and so on. This guy actually was sent to the useless task, to the suicide mission, to put the Russian flag. And apparently he met with a Ukrainian soldier. There is also the question why Ukrainian soldier was alone there. Well, after all this, you could say that Ukrainian soldier zeroed his friend on the way. Why do I call those flag missions useless from the tactical perspective? Because they are useless. The best of the scenario, you put the flag, film it from the drone or from your own camera and leave the area, run away. But later on the Russian general or commander responsible may send this video to the higher command saying, okay, we took this territory under control, I need a new medal. And actually it's not just for the Russian army, unfortunately. There were some of those missions from Ukrainian side. There was really the stupid operation done from Ukrainian side, landing on Kimberg speed. It brought nothing. The special forces were used for this mission, so the best of the best, and they caused some of the losses for the Russian side. They put Ukrainian flag, but after it they were all zeroed by Russians. And I know what I say because there were drone images published. I cannot share those on YouTube. And the sad thing that it was not just the only operation like that in this particular Kimberg speed. Ukraine tried to take this territory under control, losing many of the very qualified soldiers. So those crazy operations happen not just from the Russian side, but from Ukrainian as well. but from the Russian side they're more crazy and more massive. Again, Russian soldiers, new Russian soldiers are coming to their military branches. Just look at this guy. He can barely walk, and I see those videos again and again, especially recently. And definitely it shows that Russia has the problem with its infantry, and they're willing to get even those kind of the soldiers, alcoholics. He openly said on the video that he is alcoholic, and he will be used in those crazy missions, straightforward mid-wave attacks. At the same time, then more professional Russian army will attack from the flanks. It's their usual tactics. He wanted to obtain millions of rubles, but he will obtain just his coffin. A remarkable video of the Russian tank, probably T-72 here, with drone protection, going somewhere close to the lake, but apparently driver didn't see this hole in the front. Yes, it stuck. I think this hole wasn't built for a purpose to stop the Russian tank, but it was the outcome of the shell kaboom, and yeah, the tank was just unlucky, or the tank crew. The Russian crew evacuated, and Ukraine has the chance to get this tank into its army, but evacuation also could be risky. Now guys, please don't forget to press your like to this video. By doing so you help me a lot. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.